Okay guys, welcome to Market Cipher 101. This is going to be a definitions video. We're going to have a lot of strategies over the next, I guess forever, because I believe Market Cipher B is the #1 indicator out there, especially when it comes to oscillators. So I just wanted to make a nice definitions video. We are live on Discord. But yeah, a nice definitions video that we can always reference back to. All I use is Market Cipher, so if you guys eventually find my videos down the line and you like the content, make sure you favorite this video, come back to it so you can have all the definitions. Let me get rid of this so it looks a little nicer and less overwhelming for you guys. And yeah, let's get started. So guys, this is Market Cipher B on the bottom here, okay? It is a paid indicator and it's pretty expensive. I'm not going to lie. It is absolutely replaceable. There are free versions of it. Hop in on the Discord. The link's down below. Hop in the Discord and ask people in the community. We will for sure give you the free versions of this, but there are a little bit of differences. And at the end of the day, if you're making money and you're consistently making money, it absolutely is worth the investment, in my opinion. Others may believe otherwise, you know, to each their own. I believe it's worth it. I have the paid version. But let's talk about Market Cipher B. Let's talk about what everything is and what it all means, okay? So as I mentioned earlier, it's just an indicator on the bottom here, and it's an oscillator, okay? So there are indicators that you can have on the charts, on the candles, and then there are oscillators. This is an oscillator. All an oscillator means is it moves up and down. You should know that. Just does this, right? So Market Cipher B is a very powerful oscillator. Now, I'm going to get rid of the candles for a little bit just so we can look at Market Cipher B, and I'm going to explain to you guys what each of these things are, because there's a few different things going on here. But I'm going to explain what each one is, what they all do, the relevance it has, the order of operations, which we touched in the last video, and really how you can use it to be profitable when trading something as volatile as crypto. All right, so we have these big blue waves. Okay, these are called our momentum waves, right? As the name suggests, it gives us the momentum in the market. All right, we have this yellow kind of fill here, this yellow, like, yeah, these yellow smaller waves, I guess. These yellow smaller waves are called the VWAP, and they are also a momentum indicator, and I will soon explain how this relates to the larger waves here. Okay, we have our money flow, which is this green wave over here, and the red wave, and we have our RSI. For now, I'm going to hide everything because I want to make it very simple so we can talk about one thing at a time. Okay, so for now, I'm going to hide the VWAP, I'm going to hide the money flow, I'm going to hide the RSIs. Okay, we're going to keep it very simple. Now, as all oscillators are, there's something called oversold and overbought. All right, on the right here on Market Cipher, we have these numbers. And these numbers are a representation of what is considered to be oversold and overbought. So this line dead in the center is our zero line, okay? At the zero line, you can expect price to be a fair price, essentially, right? It's zero. Once price comes above this 60 point, where we have these waves coming above the 60, you're technically considered overbought at that time, and you're supposed to be looking to short the market. In other words, the market going down. Okay, when the waves are below the 60 or at the minus 60 line, typically things are oversold, so you should be looking for price to go up from there. Okay, so that's how you read these numbers on the side, and this remains true for all of the different indicators that we're going to go through in this video. They're all relative to these numbers, okay? So you need to know, that's why you need to know them. It's in reference to these numbers. These lines are just at the 60 line by default, which is to just give you an idea of where they are in relevance to these numbers without just like looking here. Like if you took away these lines, you wouldn't really have a clear defined point where you could see across the chart of what's considered overbought and oversold. So that's very important. We have these green dots and these red dots, which print when our momentum starts to shift. Okay, so let me hide these dots just for now. Is that this? Yeah. So let's hide these dots over here. Okay, so we have these waves, which is going to be the first indicator that we talk about, and we have our price, right? So when our momentum waves, we have two parts of the momentum waves, all right? We have this light blue section, which is hiding behind this darker blue section, okay? Now, these waves, if you can see, they start to, the light blue wave starts to curve towards the dark blue wave near the bottom here, okay? Now, like I said, they're called the momentum waves. And what happens is when the light blue wave actually curves into it and crosses into the dark blue wave, we get something called a green dot, okay, which is this here. So you can see that every time our momentum wave curves into the darker blue wave, the lighter blue curves into the darker blue, at the point that it crosses, it gives us a green dot. Okay.
Because is honestly where the money's.
Now, green dots are an indication of not necessarily the bottom, but it could be a bottom. T Crypto, do you mind just muting yourself, bro? So it's not, it doesn't mean that every time you see a dot like this, you know, you go long and you expect the market to jump up, but it does signify a bottom. Okay, so it's just a shift of momentum, right? When price is falling and we start to get green dots, momentum is shifting, right? If momentum is downwards now and now we're starting to get green dots, well, now it's starting to curve a little bit sideways. And then it might go up, it might go down. We don't, I mean, there's other ways to analyze it, which we'll get to. Not in this video, but yeah. So green dots signify a local bottom or a swing bottom, depending on the time frame that you're looking at, but it signifies a bottom. And same thing with the red dots, okay? So same thing here. When the light blue wave crosses into the dark blue wave, when we're in an uptrend or when we're like up here, it will print something called a red dot, which signifies a top, not necessarily the top, okay? So that doesn't mean when you see any red dot to short the market and then expect it to go to zero. That's not what this is. That's not what this is saying. But this is how the momentum waves are read, okay? Now, when it comes to the momentum waves, because you know that the market moves in an oscillation, right? Price goes up, price goes down, price goes up, down, and everything moves in an oscillation. You need to understand that things take time to turn, okay? So if we have a crazy price up or a crazy price action to the upside, it actually takes time for price to come back down. This is the 4-hour time frame, so it is a little bit lengthy. Like we were up here for, you know, a week, right? But you need to understand that it takes time for things to move, and price typically is not going to do like what it did here. I've mentioned this a couple times on the stream already, that this day was kind of an anomaly. This was the craziest trading day I've ever seen, and it doesn't typically happen like that. But even when it did, you can see that the move wasn't sustainable. Like over time, the momentum was upwards, as you can see in our waves, which I'll get to in a little bit. Momentum was upwards, and yeah, we had a quick flash drop, but we came back up because price is supposed to be up here, right? This was just kind of an anomaly. Now, because it's an oscillation and things take time to move, we can clearly see before the price moves, right, that our momentum has shifted. These waves are best to look at over time, okay? This is a very good example right over here. So take a look at this, right? You see a few waves above the 0 line, right? And they're above the 60 line, so we're technically overbought. And you can see over time that momentum is coming downwards, right? It's very clear. Like, this is, no one can dispute this. It's a very clear downtrend. Now, as I mentioned, it's not always a top or the top, right? It just, or sorry, not always the top. It's signified as, it could be a top, right? So we had a very large uptrend, very, very large uptrend here, right? Very large uptrend, followed by a few, quite a few momentum waves to the downside, right? So relative to its previous trend, which was up, now we're starting to get downwards momentum and we move sideways, okay? Right? So it's relative to its previous trend, right? Relative to its previous trend. And this is a good example of how it's not the top, or it's just a top, right? Momentum is coming down and we're moving sideways. Typically that's bullish, which means the price is going to go up, because when momentum waves are moving downwards this consistently and this cleanly, price should be going down. If it's not going down, you know, it's a bullish thing. And then eventually we went up again, right? But that's the momentum waves, okay? It's best to use them over time, and it's best to just look at the direction, right? Obviously, if you guys are on this video, you should know who CryptoFace is. He's the one that scripted the indicator, and he always draws the waves out. Like, you can kind of have a good understanding here of the direction of the market, right? Like, it's pretty clear, at least over here. It's not always going to be very clear. On the higher time frames, you'll be able to find, you know, more consistent trends because it's less noisy, right? But here over time, we have waves heading upwards, right? Over time, this wave is deeper than this wave, which is deeper than this wave, right? Over time, we're coming up. Now, these green dots on the bottom here are considered big green dots, and that is a signal really that we are, if we're not at the bottom, it's close. So when you're starting to see these, you're really getting bullish, because you really expect, like, we're really deep in, we're very much oversold. And these green dots happen when the momentum waves, so when our light blue clips into the dark blue, when that happens below this 60 line, that's when we get the big green dots. So here, for example, we did not get a big green dot because it did not print the green dot below this 60 line. So especially on the higher term time frames, when we start to see this, you really want to start prioritizing your longs and going long, because we're very much oversold, again, especially on the higher time frames. And this is a good example. The last time we had a green dot below the 60 line, like, right? Look at this. Let's just say you caught the exact bottom. That's a 50% move right there. Now, that's also not to say you see this and you go long, but historically, right, below 0, up. Or sorry, below 60, up. Below 60, up. Below 60, up. Right? So, of course, there are other factors, and there's a lot to unpack with this indicator, but that's how the momentum waves work. And like I said, you don't want to just look at one green dot. You want to look at the momentum over time. So, if we were to come to the 1 hour, for example, this is a perfect perfect example. I'm very happy I just found it. So you can see, right, if you draw your kind of like direction, here we were coming down. You can just see over time, very easy. Connect the dots almost, right? We're coming down, price is coming down. Then it takes some time to turn. Then we go sideways for a little bit, and then we come up, right? It's an oscillator. It's an oscillation. That's all it is. That's all price is just ups and downs. And it's up to us to identify it. So look at that. Very clean curvature. Very clean curvature. If you got in at any one of these dots here, you would have seen a nice profit, right? So that's our momentum waves. Now we're going to talk about, and our green dots and red dots. Now we're going to talk about VWAP, okay? VWAP is this yellow line, or yellow smaller waves. And the yellow smaller waves, really the best way to define it is a leading indicator for our momentum waves. So how do we know if, for example, the yellow or the light blue is going to clip into the darker blue, right? We already said that we get our red dots and our green dots when the light wave clips into the darker wave. But how do we know when that's going to happen, right? Why did this one clip here, but this one only clipped down here? So how would we know that? Well, aside from going on smaller time frames, which we'll get to in a different video, you can use this indicator here, which is called the VWAP, right? So your VWAP is a leading indicator for your momentum waves, right? I'm going to say it one more time. Your VWAP is the leading indicator for your momentum waves, which means, I'm going to make this bigger so you guys can see it nicely. We're on the 1 hour time frame, okay? Here, you can clearly see that we had an uptrend in our VWAP. I should make this a different color because the VWAP is still red. Okay, so you can see here clearly that our VWAP is pointing up, right? And then, yeah, it comes down a little bit. And then we continue up. And then we have a sharp move down, right? So you like it's like a point right here, like a witch's hat almost. And a few hours after this happened, we had our wave clip, right? So this happened 5 hours later. So we had our, I guess, our peak here, right? Our climax of the VWAP right there. I don't know if that's the right word, but it is today. Followed by this coming a few hours later. And if you backtest this really anywhere, you can see, look at this. VWAP starts pointing upwards, and then our momentum wave comes a few hours later. Okay, let's find this. Look, beautiful example. We had upward momentum. We hit our peak. A few hours later, we hit our peak, right? Here we hit our low. A few lows here. Then we hit our green dot. Okay? So think of it like this. Your VWAP is immediate momentum, whereas the momentum waves itself are more lagging. Okay? That's how you can look at your VWAP. Next, we have our RSIs. RSIs are like your typical RSIs. I'm not going to lie. I don't really use them too often. But it is a good indication of what's considered to be oversold and overbought. The only difference with the RSIs in this indicator are when it comes to everything else, your oscillator is between this point, which is the 100 line over here, minus 100. Let me do it like this. So minus 100 and plus 100, right? So your oscillator is doing this. There's a reason I'm not in art school. So your oscillator is doing this for the rest of the indicator. However, your RSI does not go from minus 100 to plus 100. It goes from our 0 line right? Our 0 line to 100. So while the whole indicator does this, the RSI only does this up here. So you'll never see the RSI down here. Okay? So this is your RSI lines like that. RSI is like your typical RSI, which stands for Relative Strength Index. Again, I don't really use it, and I don't really think it's necessary to dive super deep into it. But it's another way of determining what's considered to be overbought and oversold. Okay? So let's pull up our chart here real quick. If you can see that our RSI is at the 0 line, which is at our lowest point, right? It's not at minus 100 like the other ones. 0 is the lowest. We are oversold. If you also have your momentum waves deep below the 60 line, we're very oversold, and inevitably price pops upwards, right? So if you just use these two indicators alone, in this case, you would have made a return, right? So it's very easy to see. It's very easy to read. It's just a matter of combining everything, learning how they work across time frames, which again I mentioned a couple times, but I'm going to very much focus on this channel because it's very easy to get confused between different time frames. But you need to use it in this kind of way, right? Like oversold here, oversold here. All right, it's very likely that we're going to pop, right? Here's a good example as well. We have overbought, right? This is our highest point. The RSI cannot pass this line, this dotted line up here. So we're pretty oversold, or sorry, overbought here. We're starting to get some green dot, red dot action at the top here, which is market indecision. And then inevitably, because you're not really supposed to be prioritizing price to go up when things are overbought like this, inevitably price falls down. All right. So that's how the RSI works. Now the colors change whether or not you're here. Let me show you. So these are two RSIs. They're two different types of RSIs. One is the regular one, which is called the relative strength index, and one is your stochastic RSI. I have absolutely no idea what the stochastic RSI is. It's also a tongue twister to say, so I hope you're not giggling behind your screen. But when one crosses over the other, the colors change. I don't really focus on the colors. What you should focus on are whether or not these RSIs are together like this or whether they're separate like this, okay? When your RSIs are together, it signals a stronger move, whereas when they're apart, it signifies a weaker move. So let me see if I can find a good example of it, maybe on the on the lower term time frames. Okay, this is a good example here. So like I said, when the RSIs are together, we want it signifies a stronger move, which means price is more likely to stay where it moved to. So here we have our RSIs very oversold and they're together, right? They're not spread out like over here. They're very together. So we have our RSIs together, we have a strong move up, and we haven't even still to this day come back to these moves. So this indicates the strong movement, okay? It means price is likely to stay up here, right? So you don't necessarily, when you see the RSIs together like this, and then you start to see the momentum coming down, like I showed you guys earlier in the stream, right? You don't necessarily expect price to come all the way back down here. It absolutely can. However, because this is a strong move by the RSIs here, right? You need to take that into consideration when looking for positions up here. And in this case, it worked out perfectly. Okay? So that's your RSIs. I know that was probably a little bit advanced, especially for the beginners, and a little bit complicated. Like I said, I don't even really use it myself. Most of the time I have it even turned off, but it is something to note, and it is a tool that you can use. So just don't look at the colors. Don't worry about the colors. If the RSIs are together, it's likely that price will stay where it moved to. Whereas if the RSIs are split, they are weaker. Okay? And then now we're going to talk about the absolute holy grail indicator. Everyone in my Discord knows it's the holy grail indicator, and that is our money flow. That is this wave over here that crosses our 0 line, and it crosses into red and green, okay? The reason why money flow is the holy grail indicator is because the market, of course, is moved by money. So if you follow the money, you will be in profit, all right? It's a very simple concept. At the end of the day, all we're chasing is money because the market is moved by money. Now, how are you going to read the money flow over time? Well, similar to our waves, you want to get an overall direction over time. So I'm going to jump on the smaller time frames because we have a little bit more movement relative to our money flow. And we'll come back to this example that we used earlier as well. Okay, so over time, you can clearly see here, you know what? I'm not even gonna, we're gonna hide the chart for now. You can clearly see that over time we have this nice curvature of money flow. Okay, you could say it curved here and then it, you know, went back down, but over time, right, you can follow the money. Follow the money. You see that? Follow the money over time, right? And without looking at price, I can tell you that price came down here. Price probably did something like this, right? Follow the money, or maybe like this. I don't know. But if you just follow the money, same. I'll go to a random point in the chart and then we'll pull it up. Look here, right? Thick money flow. Money flow crosses the zero line, which is right here, and it turns green. Price likely came up here. Let's see. I hope so. Otherwise, that would be very embarrassing. Where's my charts? Yeah, look at that, right? So this was the point. Money flow was thick in the red. It started to head upwards. If you follow the money, price came up, you win, right? Now, similar to how, you know, I mentioned, how do you know if the momentum waves are going to clip, right? Like, why did this one clip up here, but this one only clipped down here? And I told you that the yellow waves, which is our VWAP, was a leading indicator for our momentum waves. Similar to that, your momentum waves are a leading indicator for your money flow, okay? Now, something very important about the money flow to note is that the momentum waves, everything's an oscillation, right? So your VWAP will actually move at like this speed. Your momentum waves will move at this speed, and your money flow will move at this speed in terms of your oscillation in each time frame. So if you look here, the VWAP kind of goes up and down, whatever, more times than your momentum waves do, or same amount of times. But your money flow doesn't do this, right? Like your money flow doesn't do this like the way your waves do, right? We have 1 wave, 2 wave, 3 wave, come all the way down here, all the way back up, all the way, right? Whereas your money flow it's a slower giant, okay? It's like a sleeping giant. How do we know when our sleeping giant is going to start to turn? And how do we know when it's going to continue? This is where our bed mass comes in. If anybody took math, you know that math sucks. And bed mass, aka your order of operations, is important, okay? When it comes to reading your Market Cipher B. Your order of operations are as follows. Your VWAP is a leading indicator for your momentum waves, and your momentum waves are a leading indicator for your money flow. And money flow is the juggernaut. Money flow is the holy grail indicator. At the end of the day, all we're following is money flow. Okay, so I'm going to say that again. Your VWAP, which is the yellow, these yellow waves over here, is leading for your momentum waves. I'm not going to write momentum waves. That's too long. So VWAP is leading for mom, and your mom is leading for your money flow. All right? Guys, this is so important. If you take nothing else from this video, like, you need to know this. Write it on your screen, write it on your door. I don't care. You need to know this. VWAP is leading for your money or momentum flow or mom, and your momentum waves are leading for your money flow. Okay? Now, if we know, how do I do this? Yes. If we know that your momentum waves and your VWAP moves faster in oscillation, we know that over time, your money flow it will take longer for your money flow to come down. Logic, do you mind muting your mic, bro? No worries. How many people do we have in here? Wow. Quite a bit for a spontaneous stream. Shouts out to everyone in the Discord. Guys, if you don't have, or the YouTube people, if you're not in our Discord, the link is down below. Come check it out. We're pretty active in there. And you know, we got good chat, so come check it out. But anyways, so that's your money flow, okay? And that's how you read your money flow in reference to your other indicators. That's all in this one. Now, we're going to go into strategies. I have a Market Cipher B strategy coming out tomorrow. That's why I wanted to spontaneously make this video. Whoa, we're dumping right now. What is going on? I wanted to spontaneously make this video because, guys, like my whole channel is going to be like around this indicator, Market Cipher B, and our vector candles, which I have a stream for an hour and a half on vector candles. I will continue to make more videos, and also I will be doing shorter videos that are not part of my Discord, just like quick, like 10, 15, 20-minute videos, so you don't have to sit through this whole thing. But that's essentially Market Cipher in a nutshell. What everything is, what everything means, and how to look at it. Again, it can get confusing looking across different time frames, etc. But you know, if you just remember your bed mass, then it's okay to, like, it'll be a lot easier for you. You know, you're not going to get so chopped up in the market. You're not going to go so, you're not going to, yeah, you're not going to get so chopped up and flop and grope and whatever, right? Just remember your bed mass, your VWAP is leading for your momentum waves, and your momentum waves are leading for your money flow. Guys, that's very brief. Well, I mean, not really brief. It was kind of a long stream, but that is Market Cipher in a nutshell. In another video, I will show you how it relates to the price. I also recommend absolutely checking out Crypto Face's channel. He does what I think is a lot better job at explaining what each of these actually are. I will go into strategies. As I mentioned, I will 100% go into strategies on how to use it, but this is a brief 101 introduction on what they all mean and what they all do. But I still recommend absolutely checking out Crypto Face's channel to get a better understanding of what they actually do and the definitions. There also is a handbook on the website, so I'll have my Market Cipher link down below. And I'll see you guys in the next video, where it's actually going to be tomorrow, and we're going to talk about one of my favorite strategies that I actually just recently started using, called the cheat sheet entry. Shouts out Kakarot. But yeah, that's it for today, guys. Make sure you like, make sure you sub. I'll see you in tomorrow's video. And once again, we had a great community on Discord where we do live streams at least twice a week. We're live right now. We got like 15 people in the chat. So yeah, we'll see you on the next one.